And today we're going to talk about Intelsat, and my connection to Intelsat goes back 20-some years to the early 90s when I was a crew member on the first flight of Endeavour when we did the Intelsat rescue and redeploy mission. Of course, the first time we went out to retrieve the satellite and could not make the capture, all of a sudden everything changes. And that's really when my memories are the clearest, because up till then it's a little bit hard to distinguish between hundreds and hundreds of training runs and the real thing. And now all of a sudden the world changes, it doesn't work. We're shocked, you expect things to work. And so we were kind of blown away and frankly pretty discouraged. And if you remember the second day we went back out and did it pretty similarly. We did some things very specifically differently, like we made our first approach in daylight rather than night. And Pierre did some practice runs with the capture bar up against the side of the orbiter to make sure he was comfortable and smooth and everything. And then I think we were all sure that this is going to work, and it didn't work. And that was really pretty devastating, I think, for us and for everybody. And I think there is where really you change the script to what I remember, and this is so typical of our business, where everybody, literally people around the world, got involved in finding a new solution, a new approach, because it was clear you couldn't really go do the same thing a third time and expect a different result. So we're kind of floating around by the back window, thinking, looking, and all of a sudden I realized that there's a whole nother half to our payload bay, which was an experiment around practicing to construct a space station manually, which we ultimately didn't really do it that way, but we were evaluating that. And pre-mission, you never involve the other part of your payload to support this part, for a lot of reasons, including you don't want to mess that up to help these guys. But now we're on orbit, we got a problem. All those rules about you don't do that are gone. And at that moment, I started to get a lot more excited and interested, because all of a sudden there was a bunch of possibilities that we hadn't considered. So we're talking, and all of a sudden, later Bruce Melnick claims that it was his idea, and it probably was. It wasn't my idea, but he says, why don't we send 3 people out? And I mean, just like that, that was the moment where I knew we were going to do it. I didn't know how, had no clue how yet, but that just opened up so much more capability. But that whole bunch of people, and there's a little segment in a lot of different videos of flight controllers and engineers in a back room somewhere with holding in their hand a model of the spacecraft. And I always think to myself, that was our Apollo 13 moment, with all these people sketching stuff, doing things, people from Intelsat, from Hughes, from NASA, from McDonnell Douglas, from Lockheed Martin, or Lockheed at the time. They were all together. You don't think about companies, you just think about, how are we going to go do this? We just get together and we find a path to a solution. And of course, it all worked according to their plan the next day when we went out to get the satellite.